Before Christ, my life was dark and empty. God was someone I knew existed, but he was a stranger. He could be right in front of my face and I wouldn't know. My parents didn't take us to church. We didn't know who God was. They didn't teach us about God. They didn't teach us about God's word. So I didn't know of that example. And it wasn't until later that I knew my parents didn't know that example. And then I became a wife, years later. Of course, I didn't know how to be a wife. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, so I would just shut myself off. I remember locking myself in a closet, alone with the darkness, because I didn't know any other way. Circumstances in my life after my divorce had left me homeless in Mexico. I would stay in this demolished concrete building, kind of hunker down and hope that no one would see me at night. And I just remember being afraid. Then it would be pitch black. It would be dark. I don't know if I thought it. Was it the devil who told me, you're here under this sky, all these stars, and you are all alone. And there is no one here for you. And this God, he's going to forgive you after everything you've done? God's not going to forgive you. You're all alone. It wasn't long after that I was able to go home, although I did break a few commandments to do it. Sunday, October 11th, my sister took me to church. So I'm sitting there in church, and it was the second part of a 3-part series of How Big Is Your God? And Chris was talking about Paul's letter to the Colossians, and he was talking about, how Paul was writing in his letter to the Christians, don't be deluded by plausible arguments. All those things that you tell yourself, that you're not worthy, that God's not going to forgive you, that everyone's going to see your sin, and they're going to judge you, that you're not good enough, you'll never be forgiven, that it's too late. And he paused for a second, for a split second he paused, but in that second, my whole life, everything that happened to me before Christ flashed before my eyes. Christ was there with me. And I thought about all the hard times I went through, and I realized that I had it all backwards. Instead of being alone, he was with me. He went to the cross, he died for our sin, so that I wouldn't have to carry this burden, this weight, this shame, this darkness, this pain with me. Baptism is a symbol. It's a symbol of new life. When I go into the water, it's a symbol of death. All of that sin and shame and darkness will die with me. And when I come out of the water, it's a symbol that I'm being born again with new life, the way God wanted me to be.